Over the years, I've really perfected, maybe not perfected, but really honed in on my networking skills. But I know many of you struggle with networking. So I want to share with you what I'm calling the networking basics 5 steps to becoming a networking beast. I talk to so many young professionals who struggle to feel comfortable and confident when networking, but know that networking, whether you're doing it face to face or virtual, are an essential part to career advancement, growing and developing your business, or making relationships that are going to help you in the community and any kind of work that you're doing. So, in this video blog, I'm going to share with you 5 easy steps to networking effectively that I think will help you feel more confident and comfortable networking, and also give you a few strategies, tips, and tools that are going to help you at your next networking event. When people think about networking, some of the first things that come to people's minds are their own fears and barriers about networking. So when I ask people, what is it about networking that is a barrier to you? Things that I've commonly heard were I feel uncomfortable or I lack confidence. I'm not sure what to say. Or some people are afraid of being judged or not really having anything to offer or bring to a relationship in a networking exchange. And I think that these are really common and typical. And so I hope in the 5 steps I share that you really get that. Feeling uncomfortable is natural, and it's something that you can overcome with a little bit of practice. And if you can apply these strategies, I really think they'll help you overcome some of your own fears and barriers, not completely, but enough for you to start getting some practice. And the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll be, and those barriers really won't be there anymore. And it doesn't even matter if you're a naturally extroverted or an introvert. I think that these strategies can be applied to anybody as long as you sort of meld them and integrate them into what seems to be, what for you is your own natural personality. So let's start with these strategies. Number one, be proactive. It's important if you're looking to build relationships for career advancement or growing and building your business or for volunteer work, or you work in a nonprofit and you're looking for funders and donors and partners. Networking is an important thing to do. And being proactive is key. And what that means is you have to take the initiative to get out there and network. So, when I did this session live last week, I asked the audience, how many of you know of networking events happening in your community? And there was a pretty small showing of people who were aware of ongoing networking events in their community. So, what I would encourage you to do as a first step is to find out what networking events are happening in your community every week, every month. There are lots of networking groups where there are professional associations or specifically groups for networking that meet weekly or bi weekly or monthly. And what you want to do is go to different ones and find out which is the right networking group for you. Where is a group where your target audience is, where you feel comfortable, and where that networking group really facilitates the opportunity for networking and relationship building. You can also network at local events and conferences. And so all of these are different types of networking events. So it's important that you identify where your audience is and find networking events that are happening either locally or nationally or even internationally where you have an opportunity to find your target audience. So over the year, I typically identify 2 to 3 conferences that I might attend, either in the US or abroad. And then I go to weekly events in my community where I network with folks. So be proactive, find out where your audience is, and go there. You also want to make sure that once you're there that you take the initiative to walk up to someone. And this can be really scary and intimidating, and I don't want to make light of it that it isn't. And so the other steps are going to help you with that first move. But you can't expect to go to an event and sit there and have people talk to you. So it's important that you strike up conversations with people, or that perhaps you go to an event where someone you know has been going and they can help introduce you. But you want to make sure that you're taking that first step and first initiative to find out where events are. And then when you get there, to make sure you're introducing yourself to people and starting that relationship. And when you do that, it's important that you be yourself. And that can sometimes be difficult when you're nervous or anxious. But it's really important that when you are meeting with people, that you're selling yourself. And it's important that they are able to meet the truest version of yourself, even if it's a nervous version of yourself. It's better than a fake version of yourself. So you don't have to put on any kind of personality that doesn't feel authentic to you, because you don't want to come off disingenuous or be one way the first time they may meet you and then be a totally different person the second time they meet you. So it is important that you be yourself. So if you are yourself and you walk up to someone and introduce yourself, one of the best ways to get the conversation going is to ask questions. People's favorite topic is themselves, and people love to talk about themselves. So ask questions and give people the opportunity to talk about themselves. And what I would suggest to you is to sit down and brainstorm a list of questions you might ask someone about yourself, kind of beyond the generic, what's your name, what do you do? But what might be some really great follow up questions about asking people, what are you really passionate about? Are you active in the community? Where do you see your business growing over the next 5 years? What led you into the work that you do today? All of these are questions that allow people to share a little bit more about their beliefs and values, and more about their relationships in the community and what they're passionate about. So those can be use those questions I shared with you as a kind of springboard for creating your own set of questions that you can ask people. And again, you don't want to be rehearsed, you want to be yourself. So, you don't want to just run off a bunch of questions to somebody, but have, a few questions in your mind that you can ask people that become real conversation starters. And then be able to answer those questions for yourself as well, because turnabout is fair play, and it's very likely that if you ask them a question, they might ask you the same question. But asking questions is a great way to get started. It's also important when you're networking to give before you receive, so that you don't want to ask people for something without giving them something first. Now, what you give people might be something as simple as giving them the name and phone number of another contact, giving them a tip or strategy you use. People ask me a lot how I manage my time, and I give people really specific tips about how I manage my time during the day in terms of emails and meetings. And those are very simple giveaways, but they can be very helpful to people who are struggling. So think about, what are the things that you're really good at? What are the things you do well? What are the resources and relationships you have that you can share when you are networking? Because it's important that people have a sense that there's a reciprocity in a relationship, and it can be uncomfortable to ask people for something if you haven't given them something first. So giving them something first does allow it to feel a little more comfortable to ask for something in return. So give that a try and sit down and identify, what are some things that I have to offer. And lastly, or what I think is most important, is to follow through. Don't come home with a bunch of business cards and just put them away. You want to sit down and email folks. So you can email people, you can connect with them on LinkedIn, you can make phone calls, but whichever channel of communication you use, you want to follow up. So if you promised a resource to someone or a contact, email them and send them that information, and then ask for a follow up meeting for either lunch, coffee, or a quick meeting in their office or a quick Skype chat. so that you can have the opportunity to share more about what you're doing and what you're looking for. So, no matter what, always follow through. While you are at a networking event, a tip that I like to give people is as you're talking to people or after you're done talking with someone to make notes on the business card that they gave you. What you talked about, what you said you would email them, or what you want to ask them for, or any promise you two made to follow up. And make a note on the business card. And then as soon as you get back to your computer, to sit down at your computer and email them, make that call, or connect with them on LinkedIn with that follow up from your earlier discussion. Or maybe in the discussion there wasn't a promise, but you can make a note about why you might be interested in connecting with them. And so typically after I go to a networking event, as soon as I get back to my computer, I send those emails, and within 24 hours, I typically have 2 or 3 meetings set up for the following week. And that is how you can maximize. You're not going to get everything out of one relationship. You're not going to go to one lunch and land that job or land that promotion or that donation. So, this is really about cultivating relationships over time. That's what networking is all about. So, I encourage you that no matter what your purpose for networking is whether you're looking for a mentor, uh, 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 or you're looking for information about a career or career advancement or potential donors or potential clients, these are strategies that I think are pretty easy to follow and pretty foolproof in terms of making those first connections and following up so that you can begin to build relationships and become a networking beast. I hope these were helpful. Put some comments below. Tell me any progress you've made, and I look forward to hearing about your next networking event.